Deep inside the armory chamber of the Moscow Kremlin stands an artifact almost no tourist notices. Not decorated with jewels, not made of gold or silver. A simple, aging copper sphere, darkened by time. But on its tarnished surface lies something far more explosive than any imperial treasure. A map of the world that does not match our history. A map showing nations that never existed. Islands that never were. Geographical knowledge that shouldn't have been possible. And at the heart of it all, a massive empire called Great Tartaria. Fade to black. Title: The Forbidden Globe of Empress Elizabeth. The map that shouldn't exist.
In 1746, an object was created for one of the most powerful rulers in Europe, Empress Elizabeth Petrovna of Russia. At first glance, it looks like a decorative globe, but look closer, and every line carved into its copper skin tells a different story. A story that contradicts everything we think we know about the 18th century world. Every ocean, every continent, every empire, engraved by hand in metal, using Latin and Italian labels, not Russian. Why? Who was it made for? And why today is it quietly pushed against a wall, its back deliberately hidden from visitors? For decades, people assumed the object was just an old globe, a curiosity, a piece of decor. But hidden on the side facing the wall, an inscription that changes everything. To Her Imperial Majesty, Empress Elizabeth Petrovna, these universal sundials are presented, St. Petersburg, 1746. Wait! This feature that looked like a universal sundial was actually its own astronomical calculator, designed to measure time anywhere on Earth, meaning the map engraved on it couldn't be artistic decoration. It had to be accurate enough for scientific calculations, and that's where the problems begin. The museum silence. Here's where the mystery grows darker. The Kremlin's official app? No information. The virtual tour? No mention. Museum attendance? They shut down photography, avoid questions, and redirect curious visitors to a website where the object simply doesn't exist. It is displayed so you cannot see the inscription. You cannot walk around it. You cannot access high-resolution images. It's there, but at the same time, it's a ghost. And when you finally manage to inspect the visible portion under bright light, you start noticing things that simply shouldn't be possible. Sakhalin, knowledge 100 years early. Let's start with the most famous anomaly, Sakhalin. On the globe, clearly, unmistakably, it is shown as an island. But according to official history, that wasn't proven until 1849, a full century after this device was made. Even in the early 1800s, Russia's greatest explorers still drew Sakhalin as a peninsula. So how did someone in 1746 know what no one in the world officially knew? Coincidence? A miracle? Or the use of maps and sources that we no longer have? This isn't a cartographer doodling on parchment. This is a precision scientific instrument. A mistake here would break the device. So either the creators knew something we didn't, or our historical timeline has a missing chapter. The Iceland Prime Meridian. Next anomaly, the Prime Meridian. On this device, the zero line, Primus Meridianus, passes through Iceland, not Greenwich, not Paris, not St. Petersburg. Why Iceland? This hints at a forgotten scientific tradition, a system of geography we no longer use, from a school of cartography that apparently vanished from history. Why would a Russian imperial instrument use a coordinate system that doesn't match any major world power of the period? What scientific worldview from the 18th century have we lost?
The empire that shouldn't exist. Great Tartaria. And now we reach the centerpiece. In the middle of the Asian continent lies a vast state, Tartaria Magna, Great Tartaria. Not as a blank, unexplored region, not as a label for nomads, but as a state, with borders, cities, internal divisions, and mountain systems. Russia lies to its north, Persia and India to its south, China to its southeast, separated by the Great Wall, shown here clearly as a state border, not a tourist attraction. Even the Crimean Peninsula appears as Little Tartaria, a recognized geopolitical player. So if this was an instrument for the Empress herself, how could it contradict the official 1745 Russian Empire Atlas, a document made only 1 year earlier? One shows Siberia as fragmented tribes. The other shows a massive empire. Two world views, created at the same time, in the same city, for the same ruler. Why?
Asia reimagined. Japan, Korea, lost islands. The anomalies don't stop there. Japan isn't portrayed as a closed-off island nation. It controls the entire Korean peninsula. In the Pacific Ocean, halfway between Asia and America, appears a large island group labeled Archipelago of St. Lazarus. A whole archipelago, similar in scale to Japan. Today, it doesn't exist. No underwater trace, no volcanic remnants. Was it a myth? A cartographer's error? Or a landmass that disappeared due to an unknown natural disaster? This single detail alone could fuel an entire documentary. America before America. Moving across the Pacific, we reach North America. The United States doesn't exist yet. Instead, New England dominates the East Coast. Virginia, Pennsylvania, and other colonies appear as independent regions. Mexico is labeled New Spain. This part is historically accurate, almost too accurate. It perfectly reflects the moment just before the American Revolution, which raises the question, why is the rest of the map so different from our historical reality, but America looks almost frozen in time? Selective accuracy or selective secrecy? Africa, the desert that wasn't. Then there is Africa. Northern Africa appears as Barbary, a powerful state. Below it lies Terra Negrita, the land of the black peoples. But the Sahara? On this instrument, the Sahara is not a desert. It is full of rivers, lakes, cities, trade routes. Either the Sahara's climate was drastically different 300 years ago, or European cartography of Africa in the 1700s was wildly inaccurate or intentionally misleading. Either scenario raises serious questions. A scientific instrument that breaks history. Here's the crucial point. This device was not symbolic, not decorative. It was a functional tool. Universal sundials capable of calculating solar time anywhere on Earth, meaning the map engraved onto it had to be accurate for 18th century scientists. It's not a fantasy map, not a mythological world. It was meant to work, and therefore, to its creators, Great Tartary was real. The Sahara was green. St. Lazarus Islands existed. Sakhalin was an island. Japan ruled Korea. This was their scientific worldview. And apparently, that worldview was later erased. Why hide it? Which brings us to the most uncomfortable question of all. If this instrument is so important, why is it hidden? Why is its backside pressed against a wall? Why is the inscription hidden? Why is it erased from official guides? Who decided it should be presented not as a scientific instrument, but as a decorative old globe? What part of our history becomes unstable if this object is openly acknowledged for what it is?
Closing question. Maybe this copper sphere is not just a relic. Maybe it is a message, a time capsule from a parallel scientific tradition, a glimpse of a world that once existed but no longer fits the narrative we inherited. If the past can be rewritten, how much of our history do we really know? Fade to black. End.
Friends, how was the story? I hope you enjoyed it. If you really liked it, don't forget to hit the like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. And make sure to turn on the bell icon so you'll be the very first to get the next video as soon as it drops tonight. That's all for now. Stay well, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.